What's up? This is PMC. Members of the Collab project have asked me to talk a little bit about my background in music and where I've come from and how I've got to this point for this project. Basically, I started out way back in the 80s, maybe mid to late 80s. Very meager beginnings. I had a nephew who used to rap, and he did tracks for himself. Well, he did tracks with people in the Pittsburgh area, but a lot of times they were over other people's beats, over industry beats. He wanted to make some original tracks. At the time, I had very modest means, so we used to bang out tracks on little Casio keyboards, sometimes no bigger than this wide. Some of them had drum pads, some of them didn't. You could maybe make a halfway decent drum beat on them. We used to run those keyboards literally into my stereo system that had a dual tape deck, and I would overdub on cassette tapes, specifically the gold Maxwell tapes that were very good quality. And we would overdub his vocals. I had a real cheap mic. We would overdub his vocals right into those tapes, go tape to tape. And of course, you all know that when you go tape to tape, you lose quality in each generation. But a lot of the hip hop community and the rappers started out that way. They made mixtapes that way. Flavor Flav used to sell a whole bunch of mixtapes that he dubbed like that. So that's how we started. One of my earliest keyboards had a sampler in it that maybe like a 3 to 4 second sample in it, or maybe at most 10 seconds a sample button in it. And we used to trigger samples from that keyboard. So that's kind of my early beginnings. That was our rough start. Then as I got a computer, a PC, I was introduced to the world of computer recording and making music on the computer, literally making music on the computer. Was first introduced to a program called Acid. If you look back at the first session, Mario was talking about that program, Acid. It was made by the company Sonic Foundry. They've since been bought out by Sony. That introduced me to loop manipulation, as Mario tends to call it, where you're using wave files that are loops of different musical phrases, and you can manipulate them in Acid. You can time stretch them, you can change the beats per minute, you can kind of flip them and chop them up. So I spent a number of years doing all my music in Acid. I actually did my recording of some of my artists that I worked with in Acid. Following that, I was introduced to a program called Fruity Loops. It's now called FL Studio. It's a very popular program in the hip-hop community. It's not the industry standard. I wouldn't call it the industry standard DAW for digital audio workstation. The industry standard, of course, is Pro Tools. At the time, and even right now, that's a little bit out of my budget right now, and I don't feel the need for that right now. If I want to bounce something to Pro Tools, I can take it to another studio if I really feel the need to do that. Or my artists can take their files to another studio that has Pro Tools. But getting back to FL Studio, when I bought that program maybe over 10 years ago, it was $99, and if you did the downloaded version, you got lifetime updates. So that's what appealed to me. So it's been my best purchase to date. I do most of my recording in that program. I do most of the beats that I make mostly are done in that program. I started out with version 3. It's at version 10 now, and I haven't paid a dime extra for the updates. So that, to me, that's a good investment. right now I'm evolving to making music on my iPad. Well, getting back to FL Studio, I use what's called virtual instruments. Those are instruments that you trigger from a MIDI keyboard, but you pull up different instruments and different types of keyboards or different sampled keyboards and different pieces of software, and you can trigger them on a MIDI keyboard. So I have many different virtual pianos, virtual organs, virtual clavinets, virtual guitars. I can pull up just about any kind of instrument you want, strings, anything, without having those actual instruments. Are they as good as the actual instruments? No. As I think Vic alluded to that a couple weeks ago. But in absence of having real artists or real musicians in the studio and being able to pay those musicians, I can simulate something close to that in my lab and be fairly satisfied with what I'm getting out of it. I'm evolving now to making music on my iPad, and I'm finding it very, very convenient. It's mobile. A lot of the programs that I have, most of the programs I have on my PC are either duplicated in apps on the iPad or they're similar programs. Drum machines, samplers, they have all that for the iPad, and I can carry something around with me that's no bigger than this. I can carry it with me wherever I go, have a little, have headphones set up, and I can make music wherever I go. The track that I did for the Collab project, the track that I did for DeVoe, I did all entirely on the iPad. I bounced it down to my PC. I worked with it a little bit, in terms of effects and things of that nature, but primarily the track was done mostly on the iPad. So I think that's kind of the evolution of where I'm going. I'm really, like I said, I'm really excited about this project. This has kind of started a new fire underneath me, and I know it's kind of stimulated the other members of the family to work on some projects. And I believe it was divine intervention that brought us all together. Whether or not you believe in that or not, that's what I believe. There's something special that brought us all together to this point to work on this project. I don't think things happen by accident. I think there's a force greater than us that pulls us all together. So I'm very excited about where this is going, and stay tuned for more. Peace.